Hello there, welcome. My name's Sam Fletcher and I'm Service Manager here at Briggs & Stratton UK. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to just have a bit of a discussion really about servicing, various processes involved in servicing. Obviously most of you are going to be Briggs & Stratton service dealers, so some of this you may already be doing. Some of it you maybe not. Hopefully there's a few tips in here that may give you different things to think about. So we want to think about different processes: booking the machine in, the actual service itself, and handing the machine back to the customer. We need to realise the point of a service is to have that machine ready for the oncoming season. So the quality of the service is important, but it gives you guys a sales opportunity every time that customer brings the machine into the shop. So I want you to use those opportunities as sales points. You can get future sales for machinery and after sales opportunities through that. So first of all, we're going to think about the booking in procedure, and I want you guys to start thinking about when the customer's with you, asking as many questions as you can about how that machine's performed over the year, if there's been any problems with the actual machine in terms of performance. Have they got any other machines that they're using in conjunction with this machine? That gives you opportunities to recognize faults. You know, we're all aware that customers normally bring a machine in for a service when there's actually a fault, so it's a repair and a service. It gives you the heads up about that. It also gives you an opportunity, if the machine is being overworked, to maybe offer them another machine, maybe a strimmer to go around the outside of the lawn and support the lawnmower that they have. Second thing I want you to be doing on the booking in end of things is to be taking the details from the machine when you book the machine in. So we're talking about machine model and serial numbers and engine model and serial numbers. And a good way to do this is to actually have a job sheet pre-made at the front of shop. So we do have a Briggs & Stratton job sheet that we've had in circulation for about the last 12 months now. This is available in PDF format. It's there for you to use as you see fit. So please feel free to use that, and hopefully it gives you something to make this process a little easier. And the last thing that I want you to be doing ideally within that booking in process is carrying out what we call at Briggs & Stratton a quick check. Now, a quick check is something that you'll carry out with a customer when their machine is bought in, and you're basically going to go over the machine and check all the simple items. So we want to be looking at, is the oil level correct? What condition's the oil in? You know, is it dark and treacle-like, or is it nice and clean and very, very fresh? Sometimes both of those can alert you to possible problems. If a 10-year-old machine's got brand new, perfectly clean oil in, that may alert you in the back of your mind, there may be something here that's not quite as it seems. Why is there brand new oil in this machine that won't start, or is stuck, won't turn over? We also want to be looking at air filter condition. Have a look at the fuel. So we want to be taking some sort of fuel sample. There's various ways in which we can do that. Checking the crankshaft to see if the crankshaft's straight on a walk behind lawnmower. But these sorts of quick checks, you can build this into pretty much any machinery. We even know dealers that when they're taking two-stroke machinery in, they will remove the exhaust before the customer leaves the shop to check that there's no damage within the engine. All this helps protect you as a dealer, and it gives the customer the information before they leave your premises. Okay, now this particular job sheet has a quick check list built in, and we would recommend doing this with the customer present. And there's a little piece on the bottom for the customer to sign to confirm that they've seen this quick check be carried out, and they've seen the conditions that the machine was bought in. So if you do have to ring them at a later point and say, this isn't just a service, you know, you saw that the crankshaft was bent, we can't repair that, it needs to be replaced. in order for the machine to be correct, you have backup in a very professional form. Now, all the subjects we're going to cover today, guys, are all about building you into that professional specialist service dealer, because that's what you guys are. You spend a long time building your dealer premises and showrooms, and your staff come on training and everything else that goes with it in order to be a professional specialist dealer. So what we want to do is ideally promote that specialist dealer image, and hopefully there's a few tips we're going to go through today that will help us do that. Just right now, what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go to a machine that we're going to imagine to be booked in and carry out a simple quick check. We're going to start the quick check by checking the oil. We're going to look for oil quantity as well as condition of the oil. So dark treacle-like oil will give us an indication that the oil hasn't been changed for a while and may well have been overheated. Next, we're going to move on to the air filter. As well as the air filter condition, we're also looking to see if there's any dirt actually behind the air filter, in the air filter backplate and in the carburetor throat. This would give us an indication that the filter's been doing its job properly and possibly show us that we may have problems with dirt entering the engine. Next, we'll move on to the fuel. Now, this may be a little bit difficult to get a good fuel sample from the engine, but by using a syringe, you can remove fuel from the bottom of the tank, and this can show you if there's any water deposits in the fuel, as well as inspecting the colour, which gives you a good indication of the age of the fuel. The final check we're going to make is having a look to see if the crankshaft is actually bent or straight. First of all, we're going to have to remove the spark plug HT lead. This is for safety reasons, to make sure the engine does not start during this procedure. Tilt the mower back and get an assistant to turn the machine over whilst observing the crankshaft or blade bolt and check for any oscillation. Okay, so now the quick check's been performed, we're going to talk about the actual service itself. So that job sheet is now going to go from front of shop into the workshop itself for the technician to use. They've got all the details ready for sourcing parts or technical information. We'll talk about that in a little while. What we want to focus on here is the actual quality of the service. And the point of a service, obviously, is to ensure the performance of the engine and the machine for the upcoming season. So a few key things we're going to talk about. The first of which is genuine parts. Now, we've been talking about genuine parts for a long time, as is every manufacturer. I want you guys to get out of the habit of cleaning things like air filters. Replace these things, guys. You make a lot more profit from replacing an air filter and selling it in a service than removing the air filter, cleaning it through a parts cleaner, then cleaning it with some compressed air, re-oiling, putting it back in the machine. So I would like you to get into the habit of replacing these parts. If a customer sees a tangible thing that they've had as part of a service in material form, they can actually appreciate that service a little bit more. Next thing I want to talk about is engine oil. Now, Briggs & Stratton make perfectly sized bottles of engine oil with our brand on for pretty much all of our engine range. So I'd like to try to get into the habit of using these. When you hand the machine back, if you haven't used this whole bottle, you can use the remainder to give to the customer and give us a season top-up, if you like. Because it's branded, it goes with the engine itself, and the customer knows you're using genuine products to go with that service. Fuel, when we talk about the fuel side of a service, obviously the carburetor and the fuel system is something completely separate, but I want to talk about the fuel that you guys are using in workshops. So we know that fuel out in the field should be treated. Some dealers use alkalite fuel, which is fine, but we want to make sure that the fuel inside a workshop being used at the service is treated, because it's pointless doing a service in November, having that machine in storage for 3 months up until the end of February, March, and that fuel's then gone off again. So using something like Fuel Fit is what we would recommend at a service workshop level to make sure that your workshop fuel that's being used at service is nice and fresh and will remain fresh up until that customer first uses it in spring. Okay. And last thing we want to talk about is a little bit more detailed items. So we want to make sure that servicing isn't just replacing filters and a wipe with an oily rag. It's our opportunity to make sure that things like cooling fins are correct, armature air gaps are right, all linkages are moving correctly, and making sure that those are good and are going to last for the upcoming season to stop those repairs coming in. And something that we really want to pay attention to going forward is valve clearances. Valve clearances is something that hasn't particularly been taken as a major service item historically, particularly in the last 10 years, I would say. What I would like you to try to do is get into the habit of doing those valve clearances at every possible service within a reasonable time frame. One of the things you'll need for doing a valve clearance is actually the data in a technical form for what the clearance should be. So what we're going to do now is go over to the Power Portal and show you where you can use the information gathered on the job sheet, engine, model, type and trim, or you can also use the engine serial number on the barcode label to obtain that data needed to carry out valve clearances, and lots of other data for other jobs and other information. So we're going to go over to the portal right now and show you where to find that. As discussed, we can either use the model, type and trim, or the serial number to obtain technical information about the engine. In this case, we're going to use the serial number. If we go across to the Power Portal now, and after you log in with your dealer ID and password, you'll be presented with this page. I want you to find the search by model or serial number button here. Click on that and you'll be presented with a search box. You can then enter your serial number here, which I'm going to do now, and this will give you all sorts of information about the engine for technical specs, parts lists, operators manuals. We're going to utilize this for this particular example to get valve clearances and show you where some other technical specs are. So as you can see, once the engine comes up with the serial number, it actually recognizes the model, type and trim of the engine for us automatically from the serial number. It also tells us where the warranty period is, days from purchase in days. If we scroll down a little further, it starts to get into technical specifications. Within this technical specifications section, we've got displacement, oil capacity, gives us torque settings for major components, and it also gives us just here a section for valve clearances. So we can see that this particular engine has a valve clearance on both valves of 428 thou, or 0.1 to 0.2 millimeters for both valves. We can also get the armature air gap. If we scroll down a little further, we get down to crankshaft specifications and sizes, common engine parts. There is a very handy little link here which links you into e-parts. So let's have a look at that. If we click onto that, using the serial number, that will automatically link us into e-parts. So if you require some parts to repair the engine along with the service parts, you can open the parts list nice and easily here and find your repair parts that you require. Okay, finally, we are going to talk about the hand-back procedure with the customer. Now again, if the customer's coming into your shop, think about that's a sales opportunity. They are on your premises. So you have an opportunity for after sales and other machinery. Always be thinking about that in the back of your mind. When we talk about handing the machinery back to a customer, think about when you take your car for a service. You're often given a service record or something like that for you to stay with your vehicle. I would also recommend giving that sort of information back to a customer. So you could actually take a copy of this job sheet with the service items that have been carried out, and give a copy of that back to the customer. That's what's been carried out on your machine at this date, and that's a record for that machine. What we would also recommend is that you use some sort of method to remind the customer of their next service due date. Now again, Briggs & Stratton has a service reminder sticker that you can stick onto the machine, on the handles or on the engine itself, to use as a service reminder. Again, if you want some of these guys, please get in touch with us here at Briggs & Stratton UK or contact your area sales manager. Again, when you're handing that machinery back to the customer, the after sales opportunities become very live and very real here. So if you've used Fuel Fit at service, think about trying to sell a full bottle of this to a customer for the upcoming season. If they've had a carburetor clean done on the service, you can use that as a reason for them to buy an after sales opportunity like this to try and stop those sort of fuel related issues troubling them from the upcoming season. So little after sales opportunities like this are all too common, and sometimes they get bypassed. That pretty much tidies us up for today. I'd like to thank you for spending the time just watching this video. I'm sure we'll be in touch soon. Keep in touch with any service related problems you have, or any tips that you have at your dealerships for service related things going on. And finally, I'd like to just say have a great season. Hope you get plenty of sales and servicing, and we'll see you again soon.